Welcome to the last episode of the series on Catholic education. Hopefully, we do more than tear down, but actually give people awareness of what's going on and a call to action for men to stand up and get involved in what's going on in the lives of their children in their parochial or secondary schools. That's it. Let's get to it.
If you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, teaching the church's teachings, you will be persecuted and you will be ostracized and unfortunately fired for doing just that. And it can scar you deeply, so much so that you don't ever want to teach at a Catholic school again. And I've had that experience where I felt betrayed by the church. I felt betrayed by God. A horrible experience, but ultimately, you keep pushing on, and you realize that you're not there for those people, and those people are always going to be there, and you're always going to have to, fight to preach the gospel and to preserve the truth, right? And regardless, but as you get older, you realize like, man, I have more at stake. I have a family, I have this or that, and those risks become questionable whether you want to take them or not, because you don't want to constantly risk losing your job, because now you have children, now you have a wife.
Some of us have a family to support.
Yeah.
And to try to support a family with a Catholic school teacher's salary is difficult enough, not to mention having all these other battles to fight, not feeling appreciated. Forget not feeling appreciated, screw that. I mean, just knowing that you're expendable to that extent, there's so many. So it's kind of it seems like a downer of an episode, especially because I have a quote right in front of me right now of a prophet, not really a prophet, but Archbishop Fulton Sheen, who was quoted as saying, "If you want your children to fight for the faith, send them to public school. If you want them to lose their faith, send them to Catholic school."
Oh,
this is attributed to Venerable Fulton Sheen.
God have mercy.
It says on this article that I'm looking at that he didn't say it, but that's one of the things that I remember mostly from, especially as I hear these stories, as I witness this being part of the Catholic school system, as I sent my kids to Catholic schools, trying to afford it, being $600 under budget every month, just because I was sending my kids to Catholic school. For what? For a popularity contest, for parents trying to impress each other with the kind of van or SUV that they were driving, all this stuff that I saw in this toxic culture at Catholic schools, not just from a theological perspective, but from a societal perspective. Is like, what are we teaching the kids? I mean, when I went to a mass, I noticed that I didn't really see those parents at mass. What the heck is going on? And even whether or not Fulton Sheen said that quote, it's true.
It is true.
It is something that is very true and very sad. And like you keep on asking, what is the answer? And I don't think a lot of us who worked for Catholic schools like the answer, and that's going to be bring back faithful nuns and monks and priests to teach. That would make things more affordable for parents. That would make the Catholic identity of the school go up. That would make things a whole lot better, but it would leave a lot of us kind of without a job. And as I saw that happening, I was like, you know what, we gotta get these kids out of the school, because I know I kind of threw the nuns under the bus, but I did, as I was speaking to one of them, and she was worried about me and my commute, because I used to drive about an hour and 15 minutes to work. She said, they'll get the faith at home. And that is probably the most important component. Me talking about the parents who were not going to mass and whatnot. The kids, they're getting the faith at home. We're praying, we're talking to them about the faith, we're sending them to a good parish to get religious education and whatnot, and we're continuing it at home. And
Amen.
I think the world will survive without the laity screwing things up more, because sadly, in our experience, we see our colleagues tearing down the faith. I talk to the people that I used to work with, and they say that the senior retreat is now basically gay straight alliance. The
Wow.
talks are no longer leading to Jesus, but they're just people sharing stories about their gay friends and their trans friends and whatnot. It is no longer about Christ. It's about us and how do we conform God to our beliefs. And it's a lot of this, my God wouldn't do this, my God wouldn't do that. Who are you to say who God is? Who am I to say who God is? And it's kind of C.S. Lewis, what I end up saying to people, that if you're looking for comfort in Catholicism, you're not going to find it. You're not going to find it in Christianity. It is not a religion of comfort. It is a religion that is meant to make us uncomfortable with who we are so that we may grow out of our sinfulness. And that's something that I see the schools refusing to acknowledge and refusing to live out and refusing to teach our students nowadays. And that's one of the reasons why I took the kids out, and our budget has been a whole lot better. And I don't know what else to say. It's not just an economic thing. It's a spiritual thing. They're losing their soul and they're taking our kids with them.
Wow. Wow. That's wow.
Mic drop right there.
It is.
If you were holding, you'd have to drop it, man.
Yeah.
I'm not dropping the cigar.
It's interesting though that the model of Catholic education, it's still continuing, but without the Catholic component in charter schools.
Yeah,
the charter schools have taken the Catholic model and
That's really
a lot of them. Yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of them have actually done good things with it. But if you think about it, a charter school actually do better to catechize your child because they're not necessarily going out there and pushing a lot of these ideological views. So. No.
Yeah, one of the friends that I used to work with moved on to a charter school, and they are basically talking about love all the time. And she says it's basically Catholic school without talking about Jesus. But even a lot of the staff are either Catholic or Protestant Christians who used to work at Catholic schools or just like the mission of just talking about love.
Yeah. Well, some charter schools now actually do great book programs. So they do classical,
Oh, and
great
if you read the classics, you can't escape Christianity.
You
because
can't
some of the
escape-
greatest
yeah.
minds on planet Earth that have ever existed
Exactly.
have been Catholics.
Yeah.
Think about the Big Bang Theory, like you said earlier, Javier. Like the educational system would not exist without the Catholic Church.
Exactly.
The hospital system would not exist without the Catholic Church.
Amen.
The Big Bang Theory would not exist without the Catholic Church. The scientific method. I mean, the list goes on.
Mhm.
One of the most famous scientists of all time, a Frenchman by the name of Louis Pasteur. I mean, we drink milk that's pasteurized because of this guy. And I know some foodies will disagree with pasteurizing stuff, but whatever. Like he was a devout Catholic who said that it's not too much science that leads to atheism. It's too little science.
Mhm.
And so when we divorce knowledge from faith,
Mhm.
we miss the point. I mean, I don't know how many times like I talked to these kids and I got in trouble for talking to being a guest speaker at a science class in the school that I was working at, because I said that I basically said that science and religion are not at odds with one another. Truth cannot contradict truth.
Yeah.
And truth is contradicting truth within the institution that has the fullness of truth. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think that was just feedback.
Oh, okay. Got it. So yeah, and that was it. I have nothing
Yeah,
else.
Dennis, I thought about your question, the solution. I think the solution is, obviously it's the lay people. We have our part, but I think it ultimately comes down to the hierarchy of the church, the bishops who we need to pray for. I see people, like I said, like Cordileone, Archbishop Cordileone, who stepped up and did what he did. I'm sure that the Catholic schools in his diocese, archdiocese, are not perfect, but it's at least a great step in the right direction. Taking that step, being bold, and doing that when you are seeing so many bishops just cave in. I know in LA about 2 years ago, I'll never forget this. All the theology teachers were invited to a meeting with the Archbishop, and
I was there.
yeah, it was really sad. It was really sad, and I couldn't believe it when this religion teacher got up and he asked Archbishop Jose Gomez what he thought about having gay clubs on Catholic campuses. And I was hoping and praying, and I closed my eyes. I was like, okay, here, this is it, Lord. He's gonna set him straight. He's gonna do it in such a way that he's just gonna end the debate. And I just couldn't believe it. He said that it depends on your community, it depends on your school, whatever works for your school. And I was just like, what? 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 And again, I'm not trying to cast the first stone.
I do.
But at the same token, I'm sorry, Archbishop Jose Gomez, you let us down. You let us down. You have let us down here in Los Angeles. You let us down, and I hope and pray to God that nobody's perfect. That you rectify that, and that in the future, hopefully. But it just doesn't seem to be getting any better here and a lot of different places. And obviously, it doesn't help with our supreme pontiff and shepherd, of the church, leading the church in a very, cloudy direction of uncertainty. So, God help us all, but we do need solid bishops that will stand up. And I remember Archbishop Chaput in Philadelphia. Remember when he became the Archbishop, he closed down so many schools. And obviously the schools that he closed were schools that were heading in this direction, that were not only struggling financially, but also that were just, teaching horrific things. And he did not hesitate. He closed them down. Right. And obviously he was criticized for that greatly. But
so are we as a school and a church going towards the Benedict option within Catholic education?
I don't know. I've heard from some traditionalists, take it or leave it, that option is not the option, as we're supposed to be living in society and not distance ourselves from society. But I mean, I'm open to debate.
Well,
but ultimately,
not
going back
everyone,
to what Javier said.
not everyone knows what the Benedict option is. Would you be kind enough to enlighten us with that?
I think somebody will do a better justice than I would.
I don't think so. I
Dennis.
think you're the expert.
I don't think I'm the expert on that one, but it's all about the church becoming smaller in order for it to actually become fervent. If I'm willing to be corrected, if you guys
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what he was writing about before he became Pope Benedict. I remember
Joseph
when he was
Ratzinger,
still, when he was Cardinal Ratzinger.
Yeah, I don't know. The book was saying simply that. I think it was saying to distance yourself from the secular world, like almost completely, and just focus on your own inner Catholic circles, and don't even bother trying to evangelize because you're too far gone, is what I've gotten from it. But again, read it, look for yourself. But ultimately, I think that's going off topic a little bit. I think at the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, what we need to do is, as Javier mentioned, we need to call out the bishops. We need to call out, we need to start writing letters. We need to show them, hey, there's some good Catholics out here, and we see what's happening. We want a change. And, I was proud of the Bishop of Buffalo recently. There's a movie being made in Buffalo on Saint Cabrini, Italian saint, or the first American female saint who's from Italy. but it's being filmed in Buffalo, New York City. And the director asked the Bishop of Buffalo, I was at the Mass when he had given this homily, and basically the director was just asking the bishop, like, what's going on, like regarding the church and all these things. And the Bishop of Buffalo actually said that, you know what, the church is losing faith in the Eucharist, basically just saying that we've become watered down as a church and we need to step up, right? And the director said, so what are you bishops going to do about it? And so he said, well, we have a lot of work to do, but, basically we need to start preaching. And so he did. He gave a good homily, like 20 plus minutes. It was based on John chapter 6, just like 2 weeks ago, I think, was the gospel. And I was really happy to hear that, coming from, a diocese that's been really hurting from a lot of scandals from back in the day. And it's just surfacing now. Yeah, the bishops need to step up. We need to pray for them. I think going back to, Our Lady of Akita, Japan, the apparition that Pope Benedict himself likes, that she said in 1973 that the smoke of Satan has infiltrated even to the highest rankings of the church, and that what is our job to do? Pray the rosary every day for the bishops and priests, right, and Pope, including, the Bishop of Rome, and do repentance, right? Do penance for the hierarchy, because they're ultimately in charge, right? Ultimately, these schools can be shut down by these bishops, right? All the Catholic schools can be shut down by the bishops if they wanted to. They're ultimately in charge. And so I think that's what we need to do. We just need to stay faithful to the prayer, to the rosary, and offer it up for the priests and bishops in particular, because they're the ultimate teachers of the faith on earth. So.
Not to be just contradictory or whatnot, but just bring back Fulton Sheen. He said that not to look to them to save the church. It's our responsibility to remind them that they are our shepherds.
Mm-hmm.
We need to pray. We need to pray hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're not picking up the mantle when it comes down to prayer.
Mm-hmm.
We have not picked up the mantle as parents to really pass on the gospel to our children.
Amen.
We're not instructing them as we should. So we have a responsibility to our children. We have a responsibility to, whether you're a father or not, this is a man's podcast. You are a spiritual father. People are looking up to you. If people have been listening to this podcast long enough, my brother Ramon has had many stories of him being a father figure to people who didn't have any direction. We have to remember that maybe the only word of encouragement these kids hear is from us. Maybe the only solid preaching of the faith will be from us. But it is our responsibility to remind the bishops who they are and what their mission should be. And let's not make a mistake. There are many who became priests to destroy the church from within, not really paying attention to the words of Jesus, who said that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. So we do have a responsibility as men. And another thing is that the Catholic schools are a reflection of the community that surrounds them, that supports them, that gives them money. So this is where we get to vote. One of the things that changed the way I eat, I know it's going to sound like I'm totally switching gears here, but something that changed the way I ate was a documentary called Food Inc. And one of the things at the very end says that we have a lot more power than we think. We get to vote 3 times a day. We get to vote every week. What parish are we going to? What is the priest preaching? The collection basket is powerful. So we get to go to the church that's preaching what the church believes, what the church is supposed to be teaching. So we do have a responsibility. And like you said, it does start with prayer, but it doesn't end there. So,
Amen.
don't let's not give way to cynicism or to what's that word I'm looking for when we just give up. We can't despair. We have to realize that we have more power than we think.
Well, I think that's also the answer, the call that we're answering to as well, especially being involved in Catholic education and continuing in apostolates or ministries or whatever we do in our everyday life. Because
Yeah.
all four of us here have heard a higher calling than just your average layperson that's called to work and provide for their family, though we are also called to that. But we are called to be out there, leaders, teachers within the church, and we are called to be judged with greater strictness as well. And if that's our calling, then we have a responsibility to keep pushing forward, not to fall into despair, not to fall into bitterness, though am having that tendency to do so over the last few months, still kind of reeling of being let go. But it's all about getting back up and being filled with hope. I still have my connections within that school there, and hearing some of the students asking where I am, and just still getting messages here and there, it's encouraging. It brings me hope, saying that, like, all right, my time there was not wasted. My heart being poured out to those students and showing them the beauty of the faith will continue to grow. We planted those seeds. We are not called to see the flourishing of those seeds. We are called to just plant them. And I think for anybody who's listening, who falls into that despair that I think I've been kind of start reeling in within the last couple of months, to get up, to get back up. If you're in that pit, get back up, and you have a calling. We have a calling. So,
amen, brother.
We didn't want to leave before plugging your podcast in. So if Edgar, if you can let us know where people can find your podcast.
All right. So just a refresher. My name is Edgar Lujano, and I run the Broken Spear podcast. You can find that on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also find my website, which is brokenspearpodcast.com.
Awesome. So we're also going to post all the links on the show notes for the podcast. So stay tuned, click, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Mm-hmm. So pray for us, and we will pray for you. Ferrum ferro aquitur. Whoa, where do you think you're going? I don't dismiss you. The bell does. Oh, the bell did ring. All right, you're free to go.